Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Brewing e-commerce. Um, I want to kind of talk about why I took this pause for a few seconds. And it is because most of the companies don't take this pause and they start creating products without differentiation. And this is one of the biggest reasons why they don't go forward. But luckily, I met Vivek and I heard his story and I heard what he's building, which is absolutely fantastic. And his journey of creating this very niche and unique product is something that I would want to learn a lot from and pass it on to myself and the community. So that's exactly what, guys. Let me welcome Vivek to the podcast today.
Hey Swatang, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me, man.
Perfect. Thank you, Vivek. So let's start from the journey. While I'd love you to just kind of introduce yourself, what do you do, and then we go deep into all the exciting stuff that you're going to share with us today.
Sure. So just to give you like a quick brief, my name's Vivek. I'm the founder and CEO at Sukham. Sukham is a men's sexual wellness brand that is basically working in the domain where no uh, consumer wants to talk about, right? So my consumers are people who need solutions or who aspire to have certain, products and services, but they don't want to usually talk about it. So we say that Sukham is a men's sexual wellness brand that helps both the needy and the greedy. So the needy being the disorder market, which is erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, infertility, etc. Things about which people usually don't talk in the open, and also don't have a lot of access and awareness to when it comes to experts, medications, etc. And then
Yeah,
there is the greedy, as we say. Everyone, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Everyone, wants to lead a life where he's,
more and
emotionally,
more.
sexually satisfied. So people are looking for enhancements or pleasure, etc. So we basically build products for both and solutions for both, but our products are 100% based on a dedicated branch of Ayurveda, which is called Vajikarna. So Vajikarna is a branch of Ayurveda or a science in which we deal with men's sexual wellness only, and all the principles, all the formulations, everything that you see in Sukham is based on that. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Of course, there is so much conversation around Ayurveda and a lot of those, earlier medicine stuff, but there's actually just a dedicated science around it is something which is very intriguing, and I'm sure we'll get more into the conversation there.
Sure.
So let's start, and I'm going to make it a little funny by saying a lot of founders have created products out of need, right? So I don't know, how was your inspiration? How did you come across, and what was the problem statement that led you to come on this path, Vivek?
So, Shwetang, that's a really good question, and especially for someone working in my category, because either you can look at me with empathy that I had some issue, or you can, probably look at me with some sort of a question or a,
Yeah, I don't know. Are you the needy or the greedy? I know you're not, but I'm just.
no, but what I'm trying to say here is, yeah, this is so I'll just tell you how it happened. So I used
Sure.
to run a professional basketball league, right? For that, I used to travel a lot. So I used to go to Southeast Asian countries, and then predominantly I've traveled a lot in Japan. So what I always used to see was there were herboceuticals or nutraceuticals there that used to sell for sexual wellness and health and pleasure and to last long, and ignite the fire and all of that, but they all had like a nutraceutical backing, or predominantly uh, Ayurveda backing to it. So there were ingredients that are there in our classical texts, but the whole positioning was very different, right? So that was the first intriguing point. And then,
Nice.
as I told you earlier when we met, I used to be an athlete also, and one of
Yeah.
my teammates who was I'll not name him obviously, but he's one of the best players in North India, and like a specimen is like 6 foot 7 inches, well built, and all of that. And then all
Perfect
of a sudden I
basketball
get to
guy.
know, yeah. And then all of a sudden I get to know that even this guy is suffering from erectile dysfunction, and that was a really
Yeah.
blow to my head, because I couldn't imagine someone like him, suffering from something like this, right? And that's when I realized that this is not all physiological or testosterone related, which
Yeah.
is the common sentiment out there, because we boys Google a lot when we get into our fitness journey, right? And the first thing that pops up
Yeah.
is testosterone. But it's not actually that. So these two
Okay.
things kind of intrigued me, and I started a nutraceutical brand, but then there were 5 6 categories in it, and one of the categories was sexual wellness, and we had some multiple SKUs in it, and we were doing pretty well. But then there were two things that were very evident. The first was all the demand that was coming in for sexual wellness was not direct demand. They used to inquire for products for diabetes, hypertension, etc., and then eventually talk about sexual wellness. So I could
Sure.
figure out two things for sure. One, there was a huge inherent demand, but then there was a taboo around it as well, and that's when I started exploring. And
Yeah.
I went to andrologists, I went to urologists, I went to homeopathy specialists who claim to have a specialization in sexual wellness. I went to Ayurveda specialists who claim to have specialization in sexual wellness, and the general sexologist, right? So I went
Mm.
to all these guys, and that's when I realized that in India, the problem is not dispensing of medications or dispensing of treatment plans. In India, the problem is diagnosis and prognosis. So I always do this, and even when we met in that party, I do this with all the men
Mm.
that I meet. That I always ask them, who's your doctor? Who's your wife's doctor when it comes to intimate problems? And they say a gynecologist. And then I say, who's your doctor when it comes to intimate problems? And then say they usually don't have
They
a
don't
clue.
have. Yeah.
Male
Yeah.
gynecologist. I'm like, bro, there's nothing called male
That's.
gynecologist. There's a urologist, there's an andrologist, but you don't even know because we
Yeah.
rarely think about it that way, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so these points made me kind of intrigued me, and I got a very good validation from both the medical as well as the general society that there is a inherent need. People want these products and solutions. There are people who bottled up these problems for a long time, but they don't really know who to speak with. So yeah.
Okay. So there was a problem statement that you went after, Vivek.
Yeah.
You got the early feedback from the market or
Yeah.
validation, right? That if you create something, and then there will be people who will be willing to buy. So a lot of D2C aspirants out there, I'd love them to kind of hear this part from you now, that from understanding that this is what you want to do to actually launching it, that's a mammoth of problems that you have,
Yeah.
right? What are your roadblocks that you faced? What were the kind of things that you went in details, etc.? And I know that I've met your founders, some of them, etc., and I know you guys bond well. It was many things. So I think the founding team, I think, is also very important. I'd like to
Yes.
have your insights there as well, please.
I would say that's the first thing. You can't build anything alone, is what I believe in. Even if you're a solo founder, you will need people, you will need investors, you'll need core hiring, etc., to get you going. Um, to give you like a detailed breakdown of what were the roadblocks, I'd first say, for anyone who's out there building a brand, be it D2C, be it a D2C enabler, be it a technology, or be it any sort of a company or a startup, there are two things that they always want to focus in. Like, there are two extreme polarities in which they operate in. One is their
Mhm.
aspiration, and the other is their inhibition, right? So humans have their aspirations and inhibitions, right? Similarly,
Mhm.
the brands they build also have their aspirations and inhibitions, because
Totally.
there is a certain baggage each brand carries, and a certain story each brand carries, and in the end that story sells, right? So
Yeah.
uh, the first block that I faced was, again, doctors. I'm an engineer turned marketer, right? Who's been into marketing for almost a decade now. My co-founders come from backgrounds of sales and operations and design,
Mhm.
and we didn't have any knowledge of what this particular problem is. What
Mhm.
is the medical solution around it?
Mhm.
What's the efficacy? Because these are questions that my consumers ask me, with which
Well,
I was
absolutely.
yeah, which I
Yeah.
also asked when I was starting. So I was like, how do I make sure that I give the right product? Because I have to be
Yeah.
super ethical, because this is something which they'll ingest, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing was, yeah, my first inhibition was medical backing. And then that was the first thing that I worked on also. So I personally went to more than 50 doctors, I guess, and told them
Wow.
that I have erectile dysfunction. And I kind of, got their prescriptions and whatever they
Mhm.
suggest for. And
Okay.
it's very it was very funny, because uh, even two andrologists or two urologists didn't have a specific approach to it, and that's what medical science is. That's why they always say second opinion lelo, right? Because there's one, because there is no one solution to a problem, right? But
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
there are methods of certain people,
Multi-
you
yeah.
know so, and which are obviously according to some protocols, but then their way of doing it, right? So I went to certain so doctors, and then I kind of found out that it's because I have to build a brand in D2C, which has to do a lot with healthcare. So I
Mm.
have to make sure that this angle of it is, correct or proper, or So,
Totally.
but there were a lot of people that didn't even think about these questions in the first and just were sticking to protocol, right? For example,
Mm.
I met a lot of people in the home, and I'm not dissing anyone. I'm just saying that everyone has their own method of doing something. But there were a
Fair.
lot of people who used to only function on symptoms, and there were a lot of people who used to only function on patient feedback. But there's
Mm.
one thing that we realized on in COVID was that you can never rely on symptoms and patient feedback, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we totally made the first pillar, which is the medical backing of Sukham, super strong, selecting Ayurveda as a practice. I had the opportunity to go anywhere, right? It was not
Right.
like I pre-decided the name Sukham and started building it. I could go
Fair.
anywhere. The
Mm-hmm.
problem was sexual wellness or sexual health. There are thousands of ways to solve it, right? So I went
Absolutely.
with the solution which gave me the most conviction, and as an engineer, as a curious guy, it answered a lot of questions to me, right?
Yeah.
Then the second thing was, obviously, when you start, you don't and especially in healthcare or any sector which is compliance heavy, you don't know the compliances. You don't know what certifications you need. You don't know what exactly are you going to, which is the body that is governing or regulating you. You don't know which is the. It's a big gray area when you
Yeah.
start, right? So the second roadblock was this. The third was obviously, getting the right set of investors, because I come from a background where I have raised money in my past as well. I've taken like a small exit as well. But all my entrepreneurial journey, I've learned one thing. You need to have the right set of people backing you. You need to have the right set of people who have the conviction in you, right? Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, they are putting their money. You see, you either bet on the horse or the jockey, right? So I knew what I was building. I had
Nice.
the conviction. I convinced them of what I was building, but it was really difficult to get the right set of investors. And honestly, whatever has happened till now has turned out beautifully for us. So these are the three major roadblocks. One was healthcare and the medical practice around it, which was the
Mhm.
inhibition. One was the compliance, which was again the inhibition. And then there was the aspiration of getting good investors who would back me, right? So I also was between the polarities of inhibitions and aspirations.
Super. And I know there is some Shark Tank and all that stuff as well, which we can't talk too much about.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to go on stage and do things like that, and especially what you're building.
And especially,
So
when there's a girl in the team, Ananya, it's very difficult for her to go out there and talk about sexual
yeah,
wellness. In dating
yeah,
also, it's very difficult for her to convince her mother that that this guy that I've been dating for the last 8 years, we both are working in this particular sector, right? It's very
yeah.
difficult. It seems easy, but it's really difficult. So yeah,
No,
but it
it's
was.
not. Uh, it's absolutely not. And this goes beyond saying, but a lot of people, when I see the whole social media, when I look at all this people, it's so easy for to come and form judgments,
An
making
opinion.
them
Yeah,
stand, saying a single sentence, they would shiver.
yeah,
So it's very easy. Um, so your product was created out of
yeah,
your conviction.
yeah,
You got validation in the market, right?
yeah.
And I think one of the biggest challenge you would have faced, which is also opportunity, is how would you go about formulating the messaging of this,
Oh, that's a big one.
right? What would be some, because this is again, brands face this challenge all the time, right? Like just to give you a little context, we work with so many food kind of brands, or whatever. One of the biggest things, most of the founders if come and tell me that we are healthy, we are organic, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you've lost it. It can't just be that. You have to go beyond, right? And for you, how was the thought process, and how did you guys go about that?
So I'll give you a very filmy answer to this, because
Please,
I
please.
I work in I have a quirky brand. I work in a sector which is full of quirk, and which is full of excitement and emotions and
Mm,
romance and
yeah.
disappointment. So uh, all the paradoxical situations that we face all through our
Yes.
lives, right?
Mm,
So, but I'll give you two theories. I'll break it down for you. viewers,
Please.
right? So that they have some value bombs also to, kind of address to, because these are things which I've not learned in Sukham. These are things which I've learned in the last decade as a marketer, right? First
Absolutely.
is, I've been trained by people who are, industry veterans, right? I've been trained by people who are ex PNG. I've been trained by people who built the biggest orthopedic brand in the country, right? So, and kind of represent India at a global level. And what I've learned when it comes to defining your brand is, first define your consumer, right?
Mm,
So I eat healthy, I eat organic. Is it a choice? Is it a compulsion? Is it something that I have to do, that I need to do, that I
mm,
want to do, that I'm supposed to do? There are different angles of consumerism, right?
mm.
You need to first understand your customer persona. So when I said the needy and the greedy, this was not a witty line caused, written by Vivek only to impress
Yeah.
people. This was the market telling me that there are only two types of people: the needy and the greedy. Second is, when you've got a communication coming from your brand, it has to have redemption in it. Like old Hindi songs, "Chahunga main tujhe shaam savere." Like,
Mm,
there has to be a redemption to it. "Chahunga main" is not quantifiable. All
mm,
our Hindi songs, all the Mir Mazaz and Ghalib, is
mm,
all filled with redemption. So this beautiful example that one guy gave me, that when they were building Pantene Pro V, right? And they said,
mm,
"Hair so healthy it shines." There were a lot of brands that were saying healthy hair. There were a lot of brands that were saying, strong hair,
yeah.
or shiny hair.
Yeah.
But then they said, "Hair so healthy it shines." It is so healthy that it shines. They defined the whole science of it, right, in a
Mm,
line. Miss
yeah.
hui date to क्यों करूँ wait, Prega News, right? They have
Right.
87% market share. Manforce की company है, right?
Right.
It's because the communication is so clear and it has a redemption to it. So अब होता क्या, आपका ना कंज्यूमर का एक बेस होता है, और उस कंज्यूमर के बेस में उसके इन्फ्लुएंसर्स होते हैं, बायर होता है, कंज्यूमर होता है, डिसाइडर होता है,
Mm,
यूजर होता है. तो
yeah.
इसके अलग अलग एंगल्स हो सकते हैं, राइट? तो अब आपको
Absolutely.
क्या करना होता है? अब यूजर और कंज्यूमर अलग कैसे है? भाई, मम्मी सेरेलैक ले रही है पर बच्चे के लिए ले रही है ना यार,
Mm,
राइट?
mm,
तो
mm,
उसमें भी, अच्छा, उसमें डिसाइडर कोई और है, बायर कोई और है. तो ये बहुत ही बड़ा एक मैट्रिक्स है, राइट? आई डू क्लासेस ऑन दिस आल्सो, बाय द वे, whenever I get
oh,
time, founders, yeah. So it's because I need the D2C brands to understand कि भाई हम लोग ज्यादा प्रोडक्ट नहीं कर सकते, बिकॉज हम कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं.
yeah.
Product हमारा अपना नहीं होता most of the times, right? Me at Sukham, I've tried to make sure that the whole value chain is controlled by us. We acquired a small factory also, with like everything we control.
Yeah.
But you cannot do it in most of the brands, and it's not smart to do in most of the brands, right? Because I
Mm,
need to have a quality control because of medical practices. I am doing it, but मैं नहीं
mm,
होता, अगर फूड में होता मैं नहीं करता, right?
mm, mm,
सो आपका प्रोडक्ट अपना नहीं है, आपकी
mm,
मार्केटिंग टीम अपनी नहीं होती एक सर्टेन स्केल तक,
mm,
आपका टेक्नोलॉजी अपना नहीं होता एक सर्टेन स्केल तक. आप शॉपिफाई पे बना रहे होते, तो आपका है क्या? आप तो ट्रेडर हो गए ना, आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर हो गए,
right.
राइट? तो इतना
Mm,
प्रोडक्ट प्रोडक्ट करते देखा है किसी डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर को? नहीं ना. वो
mm,
कम्युनिकेशन रादर बेटर बिल्ड कर देगा कि 4 डब्बों पे एक फ्री, 5 पे सोने का सिक्का फ्री, जैसा भी जिसका मार्केट है, जनरल ट्रेड जैसा चलता है, रिटेल जैसा चलता है. सो मेरा ये बोलना है, सबसे पहले ब्रांड कम्युनिकेशन. उसके
mm,
बाद आता है शॉपर कम्युनिकेशन. अब शॉपर कम्युनिकेशन क्या है? शॉपर कम्युनिकेशन में उसकी एक थ्योरी है मेरी, पी न्यूज, विच इज प्राइड, नीड, एनवी, वांट, सेटिस्फैक्शन. अगर इनमें से कोई भी चीज आप इग्नाइट कर रहे हो, राइट,
mm,
अपने, या इंसिनुएट कर रहे हो अपने कंज्यूमर के अंदर, दे
mm.
विल want to buy your product. The new one is fear, which I don't relate with, which is post COVID. Now it's P News
Yeah.
F.
Yeah.
But I don't think the fear market is going to last very long. Yeah, right? हार्पिक मारे 99.9%
Yeah.
जब, वो हार्पिक,
99%.
हाँ, वो हार्पिक पे ही चल सकता है, डेटॉल पे ही चल सकता है, बट
Yeah.
वो भी ऐसा मेरे को नहीं लगता वो प्रोडक्ट की वजह से चल रहे हैं. वो इट्स अ मिक्स ऑफ एवरीथिंग.
It's a mix
सो
of two.
yeah, so for me, P News is what the shopper communication. You have to be very, and then there is advertisers communication. So now you're a publisher, you have a shopper, publisher as in you're a brand, you have a shopper, and then you're an advertiser also. Then what's your advertising communication? You'll never see a Sukham ad saying increase vigor, vitality, stamina, all of that. I won't do that, right? You would rather see an ad of Sukham saying कि bro, तेरे को पता है वो जो दीवार पे गुप्त रोग लिखा होता है ना, वो एक्चुअली गुप्त नहीं होता, और तू अकेला नहीं है. Hi, my name is Vivek. I'm the founder and CEO. So I start like this. So my theory here is ABCD: attention, branding, connection, direction. Attention is the hook. The hook has to be super gluey. They have to stick to the hook. It should not look like an ad. It should look like a communication that the consumer can forward to their friend saying, bro देख यार क्या. My first ad that went viral was वो मुझे इनो बुलाती थी क्योंकि काम खत्म सिर्फ 2 सेकंड्स में. Right? So that was, we were talking about premature ejaculation, but we did it in a funny way and Facebook
In a
couldn't
funny
block
way.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so hook, then brand. इमीडिएटली ब्रांड का नाम आ जाना चाहिए मेरे हिसाब से, इमीडिएटली, बिकॉज अभी हमको कोई जानता नहीं है, हम एप्पल नहीं है कि हमारा डिजाइन लैंग्वेज देख के बोलेंगे कि
yeah.
नहीं यार हम का प्रोडक्ट होगा, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं
Yeah.
है. हम D2C
Mm,
में पैकेजिंग में इतना कुछ मचा सकते हैं ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग, राइट. आप एक
mm,
पैकेजिंग निकालो 3 दिन में वो सभी के पास होगा और वही
absolutely.
आपका ही वेंडर बना रहा होगा सबके लिए. सो
Mm,
आपका द ब्रांड हैज टू बी वेरी प्रेवलेंट. कनेक्शन इज व्हाट फीलिंग यू इनसाइट इन द कंज्यूमर, जिसमें मैंने वो पिछले में पी न्यूज वाली बात कही.
yeah.
And then there is direction. You have to have one call to action. I see a lot of D2C brands saying either call us on this or place an order on this slash this
Mm,
or follow us on Instagram. भाई इतने डायरेक्शन दे दिए कंज्यूमर को, कंज्यूमर वैसे ही कंफ्यूज हो गया.
infuse.
So
Yeah.
you have to have a very strong direction, right? So I think these are the fundamentals, that I would say one has to stick with while he's making the communication of the brand.
Wow, you've broken it down amazingly well, Vivek. Thank you. I think these are exactly the kind of insights where I think we as a company have gone wrong as well. It's a continuous process of
I have
improvement.
gone wrong. I have gone wrong knowing all of this in theory. And in Sukham, the line that makes everyone talk to me when I'm in a party or a startup event is from the land of Kama Sutra. It
Yeah,
took me 1.5 years to get to that. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's a very funny story about that, which happened to me in Turkey. But that's we can't record in podcast, so I'll call you later and tell you about
Sure, sure. I'd love to know.
it. Yeah. Um. So now that your product is launched, your messaging is something which is gets refined more and more, but it's an ongoing process, right? I think, how do you see the market in the current situation? There is so much dull and gray that everybody talks about. Um, is it very different for different kinds of products, or it's different just because overall people are very skeptical about the money spending? And how do you see this whole D2C space in the coming year, Vivek?
Yeah, that's a very good question, by the way. So I've been thinking a lot about this lately. मेरा कैटेगरी में कंपनी था मोजो केयर. ठीक है, based in Bangalore, raised insane amounts of funds, raised insane valuations.
Sure.
One of the founders was ex VC, right? So
Mm,
all that
mm,
pedigree and all that going on.
of course.
They shut. The investors were super disappointed. Most of them will never invest in sexual wellness again. He kind of destroyed a lot of good investors for me. Uh, I'm not saying they were not doing a good job or whatever, but if they were, they wouldn't have been shut like this. Then there are bigger brands like Bold Care, other brands also in my category. I'm only talking my category, and I'm
Sure.
telling you my perspective.
Yeah.
I raised 2.25 crores in July 2022.
Mhm.
I'm sitting in February, and I still have 72 lakh rupees of cash with me, and I
Mm.
have built a brand which has done more than 3.5 crores of sales, right? So, and with only one SKU and
Yeah.
7 cities, right? I
Yeah.
didn't even go to an Amazon or a Flipkart, right? All I'm trying to say here is ये मार्केट कैसी है छोड़ दो, आप कैसे हो पहले आप ये देखो, राइट. मुझे 2.25 पे सबको बताना था कि सुखम है. आज आप कभी भी, I just wish that you meet any of the big players in sexual wellness and just ask them that, do you know Sukham or Vivek? I'm
Mm.
sure, I'm 100% sure कि 5 बार उसका मार्केटिंग वाला मेरा एड्स लाइब्रेरी खोल के देखता हूँ,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's all for me. That's my first thing. Is that my
Absolutely.
along with my competitors, along with my customers, my competitors know me, right?
Mm.
They
Mm.
also know that okay, there is some guy. He's
Mm.
he's building some differentiation. एंड
Mm.
मेरा कंज्यूमर उसके पास जा रहा है, उसका मैं लेके आऊंगा. ये शुरू होगा तभी जाके मैं बोलूंगा कि हाँ
Yeah.
कैटलॉग,
Yeah.
राइट. अगर
Mm.
स्नैपडील शॉपक्लूज सब नहीं होते तो फ्लिपकार्ट नहीं होता टॉप पे, राइट.
Mm.
अगर
Mm.
सभी सही चल चुके होते तो आज फ्लिपकार्ट नहीं होता अमेजोन से कम्पीट कर रहा, राइट.
Mm.
सो
Mm.
डिसेंट्रलाइज हो जाता है, और कभी भी मार्केट डिसेंट्रलाइज नहीं होती, मार्केट हमेशा कंसोलिडेट होती है इन दी एंड, राइट. तभी वीसीज भी प्रे एंड स्प्रे करके बोलते हैं भाई, मतलब स्प्रे एंड प्रे करके बोलते हैं भाई छोड़ दो, अपने आप 10 साल में कुछ ना कुछ कंसोलिडेशन हो जाएगा. हम लोगों को कहाँ कहाँ से कितना कितना एग्जिट मिल रहा है हम देख लेंगे. सो
Mm.
ना, Sanjay Mehta always used to tell this, in his master classes, which I loved, that when you go to an investor, he's only thinking a few things. He's like, whatever you're blabbering, it doesn't give a damn. He's like, is there money to be made?
Hmm.
How much money will I make? In how much time will I make that kind of money?
Hmm.
And will this guy make me money? Period. Right? And that's all. So
Yeah.
हर एक फैसेट ऑफ योर कंपनी, हर एक फसाड में आपके पास एक एक ऑब्जेक्टिव है विच यू हैव टू काइंड ऑफ यू नो लुक फॉरवर्ड टू, एंड सर्टेन सेट ऑफ गाइडलाइंस दैट यू हैव टू अडहेयर टू। और फिर भूल जाओ मार्केट वार्केट यार। बहुत ब्यूटीफुल ब्रांड्स बन रहे हैं श्वेतांक अभी इस मार्केट में, और बेरिश मार्केट में ही बड़े ब्रांड्स बने, बुलिश में तो हमेशा बेकार ब्रांड्स बने। आप समझ रहे हो? तो मेरे को नहीं समझ आता ये मार्केट वार्केट। भाई कंज्यूमर्स है, उनका इरेक्टाइल डिसफंक्शन हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, ये मार्केट डिसाइड नहीं करेगा। विवेक के बस की है, उसको बेच पाएगा तो बेच पाएगा। यूनिट इकोनॉमिक्स अच्छे होंगे उसको बेचने में, पैसा होगा खाते के अंदर, और इन्वेस्टर से बातचीत टाइम टाइम पे कर रहा होगा, तो उसे पैसे भी मिल जाएंगे, ब्रांड भी बन जाएगा, कंज्यूमर्स भी बन जाएगा, प्रोडक्ट में दम होगा तो रिटेंशन भी आ जाएगा, और अगर ब्रांडिंग में दम होगा तो ब्रांड भी बन जाएगा। So all I'm saying is everything is on us ना यार। ये ना बड़ा विलनाइजेशन और विक्टिमाइजेशन वाला सिचुएशन होता है। अगेन इनहिबिशंस एंड एस्पिरेशंस, मेरे अपने इनहिबिशंस मैं हमेशा मार्केट पे डालूंगा, मेरे
Hmm.
अपने एस्पिरेशंस मैं खुद पे दे दूंगा। आप हमेशा देखना, कुछ अच्छा हुआ
Hmm.
ब्रो वी क्रैक दिस, कुछ
Yeah,
बुरा
yeah,
हुआ यार मार्केट नहीं ब्रो।
yeah. Hmm.
Sometimes
Hmm.
you crack, sometimes you don't accept, right? You need to accept and move forward. So I have a very moral sort of a standing here कि मार्केट वार्केट सब ठीक है यार। हाँ, थोड़ा मार्केट, अब यूएस में इंटरेस्ट रेट्स का कुछ चल रहा है तो भाई तुम्हें कैसे अफेक्ट कर रहा है यार? तुमको
Hmm.
एंजल चेक उठाना है, भरा पड़ा
Hmm.
इंडिया एंजल मार्केट में। हम लोग को एज अ कमोडिटी देखा जा रहा है अब स्टार्टअप्स को, कि भैया इस
Yeah,
अपने पोर्टफोलियो में ये
absolutely.
जरूर डाल, राइट?
Hmm.
तो
Hmm.
मार्केट इज राइप, आप उठाओ पैसा, करो वैलिडेशन। और डी2सी में तो खास कर यार, जो डी2सी में आके बोलता है ना 12 लाख की सेल में मैंने 10 लाख का नुकसान करा है,
Hmm.
मेरे को वो समझ
Hmm.
नहीं आता, राइट? फिर 12 करोड़ की सेल पे मैंने 10 करोड़ का नुकसान करा है, मेरे को वो समझ नहीं आता। भाई मेरा बर्न है अभी, मेरे को 18 महीने
Sure.
मेरा बर्न है बिकॉज मैं एनपीडी पे पैसा लगा रहा हूँ। मेरा
Hmm.
CM1 CM2 में कोई बर्न नहीं है भाई। मैं CM2 नेगेटिव स्टार्टअप्स को आके देखता हूँ बात करते हुए कि यार मार्केट खराब है। अरे भाई तू अपना CM2 तो ठीक कर ले। कौन सा मार्केट डिफाइन कर रहा है तेरे CM2 को? तेरा CM2 का यूएस के इंटरेस्ट रेट से क्या लेना देना है, राइट? सो ऑल आई एम ट्राइंग टू से हियर इज वी हैव टू बी रियलिस्ट्स।
Vivek, I have to say this is one of the most honest podcasts that I've done.
थैंक यू।
And the people who can understand, I think the one who are dealing with this is such an amazing uh, break way of just looking at things, because deep down, I think you very nicely said, if things go right, it's the team is doing an awesome thing. If you know, it's very easy to put the blame on others rather than looking at what you want to do. Wow, I just hope a lot of guys who are in the early stage, or even in the seed level stage, just watch this, and it takes a lot to build this confidence. I hope they understand that you're not flapping. It comes from experience. It comes from doing things wrong. But the important is that you get there, and then you move.
Yeah.
Right? Super. What's in card? What is the whole excitement that's keeping you up? How would we see cool things happening at Sukham in the next few months or the next year?
So a lot has changed in the last 1 year, right? And that's the most beautiful thing,
Yeah,
a lot changes, within a year, everywhere. Your brand, consumer, insight, market,
yeah,
platform, everything changes.
yeah.
See, what I'll always tell founders, or when I meet founders, what I always tell them is that whenever you're building, no, आपके पांचों senses खुले रखो, right? Because you need to understand कहाँ क्या change हो रहा है, because आपको adapt करते जाना है on the go. ऐसा
Hmm.
नहीं हो सकता कि आप टाइम लेके अडेप्ट करोगे, राइट? सो
Hmm.
पिछले 1 साल में बहुत अडेप्टेशंस हुए। फॉर एग्जांपल,
Hmm.
वी लॉन्च्ड समथिंग कॉल्ड TTT 120 फॉर विच वी आर फाइलिंग अ पेटेंट फॉर। तो हम लोगों ने बोला कि हम अपना प्रोसेसिंग खुद करेंगे। फिर उसके बाद हमने अपना हब प्रोसेसिंग मैकेनिज्म बनाया विच इज बेस्ड ऑन क्लासिकल टेक्स्ट, एंड नाउ वी फाइलिंग अ प्रोसेस पेटेंट फॉर इट एंड a trademark in class 5. So uh, that's triple trituration technique. So we basically built a hub processing technique in India. Then I'm building a diagnosis system of dhatus, doshas, etc. using HRV, heart rate variability, which is called THPD, which was already there in the market, but then we're redoing it in a certain way, and
Hmm.
we're going to launch it on mobile. So you just put your finger on the camera, and it will
Mm.
take your HRV and it will give you all your dhatus, doshas, etc. Right?
Mm.
And you'll get to know where exactly is your sexual health going and what exactly is wrong in your body and all of that. Right? So
Wow.
it's going so because
Mm.
as I said, in India the problem is not dispensing. Hello,
Mm-hmm.
I think there is some issue with the.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm saying I cannot actually see you or anything. My internet seems to be stable.
Okay.
Shtang, can you see me?
Okay. Yeah. And I know that. Yeah, yeah. And I know you guys go in deep depth to go and figure out that the crop and the herbs that you're taking from the farmer, the quality is maintained and stuff like that, right? That's a very rigorous process as well.
Yeah, Shrutang, the problem is that I'm not able to see you or hear you. There's a connection issue, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, it's saying having problems communicating with our servers. I think there's some issue with the.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay, perfect. Let's carry on and we'll edit that part, so don't worry.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure. So basically, triple titration technique, TTT 120, and then THPD, the tissue health using pulse diagnosis, which is based on HRV. These are the two very industry first thing that Sukham is launching. We built very good products like India's first Ayurvedic lube, and all of this happened because we from our sourcing to packaging, everything is now controlled by us. So we have kind of co-acquired or we co-own our factory. We source our herbs from farmers. We go to places like Chamoli, Gopeshwar, and we basically buy from them, and then do the whole processing ourselves. And we're now talking to new FPOs like Ayur Khet, etc., that are working with farmers directly and selling us good quality products. We have food scientists working with us. We have Ayurveda. We have a board of 7 doctors when it comes to formulations, etc.
Wow.
Yeah, we're now also doing a clinical trial. So a lot has happened in the medical front. Uh, in terms of business, I think we've been growing pretty decently. I think we've been doing well. It's now time to even scale further, and I'm also raising a round for that. We're also featured on the trailer of Shark Tank. I think the episode might come out very soon. By the time, I just hope that by the time you release this, the episode's already out. So yeah,
Yeah, I hope
a lot.
so too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then obviously things will change. So all I'm saying is, a lot has changed. But what's keeping me excited is the new THPD that we're launching, which is tissue health using pulse diagnosis, which is based on HRV. I think that's going to be a game changer in Indian Ayurveda. So yeah.
Super, super. I'm loving this, Vivek. Like I said, really, really amazing insights that you've shared for every D2C brand to kind of look at it, take a print out of this, keep it right in front of their laptop screen, because this is exactly how it should be. I have a couple of more questions before I
Sure,
let
sure.
you go. One is, there is so much conversation around technology. There's AI, there are customer journeys, there's D2C, there's this and that, right? How do you see? Uh, Actually, let me just reframe that. There are two kinds of founders. One who kind of say, no, 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 no. Things are not that complex.
Yeah.
Let's not complicate things. And the second are the ones who kind of go and try and adopt these technologies and bring them to the business and then try to get value of it. So, which side are you on, and do you see all this aiding you in your business and helping out and improving things?
See, I'll tell you one thing, यार. The kind of founders that say कि things are not that complex ना, कभी उनके businesses जाके देखना, वो internally उतना ही complex होता है. ठीक है. हर एक चीज एक्सेल पे होती है, डेटा कलेक्शन प्रॉब्लम हो रही होती है, चीजें फट रही होती है for no reason, right? So my thing is, if you are not the early adopter,
Yeah.
don't expect your innovations to have early adopters, right? So
Oh my God, this
uh,
is awesome. Yeah,
yeah, so that's the
absolutely.
satirical. I think. See, I'll tell you one thing, man. For example, you talk about D2C. I come from a era, where e-commerce became, omni-channel.
Yeah.
Then it became O2O. then D2C came in, and now we're running back to brick and mortar again using the term omni channel.
Yeah.
So all of this happened because of two things. One,
Yeah.
everyone wanted to block the customer exit points, right? They don't want
Yeah.
their customers to exit once they enter, right? Be it a store, be it their e-store. So, like how retail has changed the whole game of merchandising, brick and mortar, and everything,
Yeah.
I think D2C also needs to even faster adapt to this. So what happened in a decade in brick and mortar is going to happen within a month in D2C, because there's data, everything is quantifiable. You exactly know who your customer is. You exactly know where is he going on your website. You've got heat maps, journeys, etc. So
Yeah.
if you're not adopting to all of this, and if you're not giving your consumer that sort of experience,
Hmm.
you are not differentiating in your service quality as well. And the
Totally.
worst part of online marketing is people think of advertising as marketing. Digital marketing is nothing but advertising, right?
Yeah.
Marketing has end-to-end stack where you also
Absolutely.
acquire service, sell again service, and keep that customer for a longer period of time, right? What they
Yeah.
call the North Star metric as LTV, right? So,
A- Absolutely.
hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to
Yeah.
have all the parameters controlled through tech. So for example, I'll tell you one thing, one small thing. There's this brand called Very Fast that builds AI engines and AI
Yeah.
chatbots. They came to us and we
Mm-hmm.
said, boss, let's make a AI bot called Modern Vatsayan. Vatsayan is the guy who wrote Kam Sutra. And I
Sure.
said, let's keep the opening line as, hey, my name is Vatsayan. My predecessor helped millions and millions of men have good sex over thousands of years. I
Hmm.
am the modern avatar of it. Tell me your problem and I might help.
Sure.
And that sort of hook with a chat
Different.
generative chatbot, now I have leads flowing in through that chatbot, right? because
Absolutely.
because now people are talking to the chatbot because they know that it's a chatbot. It's giving me good scientific knowledge, but I'm not also not talking to someone, and it's anonymous and all of that. All
Yeah.
the inhibitions of my customers were taken care of,
Yeah.
and the whole thing was automated using a small AI chatbot, right? Now if I go out and say नहीं यार चैटबॉट नहीं रखना क्योंकि वो कुछ भी बोलेगा, मैं अपना LLM बनाऊंगा, मेडिकल में रैंडम कुछ भी नहीं बोल सकते, अरे भाई टिल अ पॉइंट आप यूज करो ना, and then you take the handover rather
Absolutely.
than your doctor talking to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's coming with random, bullshit questions as well, right?
Yeah.
Because most of the times in my category, people also have a lot of, they also want to, kind of make, it's a very shady
All
sort of category as well,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So so all I say is use technology to get to the 2.0 of your brand, right? You can build the
Hmm.
1.0, but the 2.0 always has to be through technology. And exactly what I keep telling you, what Koi is doing, what all you enablers are doing for us is going to help us understand our consumers better, because me as a founder cannot talk to anyone and everyone.
Vivek,
Technology should give me that.
I love your 1.0 and 2.0 stuff. I'm already thinking this is going to be my opening line of the podcast
Please,
because
please do that.
it just there's just so much data, so much flap, so much things around. I think the best way to do it is to compartmentalize and put it in a way that you can
200,
easily adapt and understand
100,
it. And
100.
as soon as you did 1.0, 2.0, my brain suddenly switched on like, oh, this to this. It just puts everything in blocks and blocks, which is amazing.
So I'll tell you one more thing just to add to that. As
Please, please.
founders, we always have to think like, when you're an engineer, right?
Yeah,
So remember we learned step function and path function.
yeah.
So there is a step function which defines the whole process, and then there's a path function. Sorry, step function which decides the destination, and there's a path function which also decides the steps. I think
Hmm.
we have to look at path function as founders and not step functions, and then build our processes around it, because whatever we do will impact the other thing. हम लोग क्या करते हैं ना, हम लोग अपना डिजायर लेके आ जाते हैं यार. फॉर एग्जांपल आई सी अ लॉट ऑफ D2C founders doing this, and I'm not dissing anyone, but I'm saying big founders, bro. I don't want to say their names because they might invest in me as angels in this round. But they go to their e-commerce handlers and e-commerce enablers and digital marketing enablers and say, यार मेरा ना ये वाला टारगेट है, इतना एड स्पेंड करेंगे, तुम इतना रोएस ले आओ.
Yeah,
भाई भाई कैसे ले आएंगे भाई? वो तू तू इतना रोएस कैसे ले आया, तेरे को पता है? जब तुझे आज तक नहीं पता तू साल का 100 करोड़ रुपया कर रहा है कि तेरा रोएस आया क्यों है, तो ये कैसे ले आएगा? सो इट्स, आई से दैट्स फ्लूक. Sorry to say, but yeah, it's fluke.
No,
If you,
it's completely fluke, and it's completely wrong expectation right from day one. And
yeah,
when I get on calls, when I'm trying to talk to our prospective customers, I can very easily gauge that even if we want to onboard them or not. And we are a very small company, we're just learning, we're trying to do, but it's such a big thing for us, because if somebody is coming saying, in your 21-day free trial, will I see my conversion rate go up through the roof and this and that, I'm like, if
bullshit.
it was a magic wand, then it was a different story. There is a
Bro, I
lot of
wouldn't have been speaking with you. There would have been a chatbot answering all these stupid questions, and then I would come to you the time
yeah,
you pay.
yeah. So there's so much that goes in, but you're absolutely right. I think how to look at it, being patient, understanding the process makes you appreciate things and then take action accordingly, which creates all the
And
impact.
then you're taking a decision which is very strong. See, when I was working with big brands like Nike, they used to have DSS, decision support systems, that used to get data from
Later for
BI,
you to
from ERP, and then so big brands have been doing it, and that is why they're big, and they've
help
been
me.
able to sustain, right?
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
always get to a top. कोविड आया, सब ऑनलाइन खरीद रहे थे, सब 50 लाख का MRR कर रहे थे, सब फंड हो गए, सस्टेन कितने ब्रांड्स कर पाए, राइट? ब्लिप आएगा, अभी शार्क टैंक हो गया, ब्लिप आ गया, मेरे को मैं एकदम फट गया, फिर
Hmm.
वापस डाउन आ गया, तो सो माय थिंग इज दैट आई कैन नॉट वेट फॉर ब्लिप्स एंड मिरेकल्स टू हैपन. If I don't know the process, I'm doing that. I'm doing hope trading, bro. That's all.
This is just too brilliant, Vivek. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to do the last question, which is usually the toughest one,
Sure.
right? So brace yourself. You have to tell me and the community something that you've not told anyone about yourself.
About my startup.
About yourself. It can
About
be a funny
myself.
story. It can be something, any cool thing that you happened or something you did, but something cool that you don't share often with people.
So that's difficult. So lately I've been so what happened with me was, I'll tell you one thing. I No one knows, like, it's very intimate, but I'll say it out loud. It's okay, because
Sure.
as a community we also want men to openly accept it.
That is the idea, right? Bring in the
So,
community. Yeah.
yeah, so I was suffering from bipolar disorder back in 2018, right? So 18-19, it was very difficult for me. A year of therapy, medication, and all of that, right? I couldn't even speak about it with my family. What difficult, right? And then I got to know about the basics of Ayurveda and psychology, and I read a lot. And obviously, the first form is acceptance. The first step is acceptance, and
Yeah.
then all of that happened. And then now, a few days back, I got uh, kind of acquainted to this beautiful thing called Kriya Yoga. So I've read that book. Have you ever? I don't know if you have or not. It's a autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa.
I've heard a lot about it, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Shwetank, it's a personal recommendation. Do read that book.
Okay.
It will help you
Okay.
build कोई, because right now हम वो बोलते हैं ना, दो तरह के लोग होते हैं, एक जो पढ़ते हैं खो जाने के लिए और एक जो पढ़ते हैं खोजने के लिए. हम अभी
Hmm.
स्टेज पे जब हम खोजेंगे, right, we look for things. So you'll
Okay.
get a lot in to shape your brand communication, the way you speak about your brand, the way your brand functions, your customer service. It'll help you a lot, right? I always tell. So I've read the Bhagavad Gita thrice in three different phases of my life, and every time it just taught me something. So
Wow.
I have not been spiritually inclined for a long time now, but
Mhm.
abhi वापस से I'm getting there. So uh, the one thing that people don't know about me is they always see the capitalist asshole Vivek, who's always trying to find more money for its brand. But I think that's my karma as a startup founder. That is something that
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
But there's a spiritual side to me, which comes from a as I said, which comes from a deep rooted inhibition, which was my mental state, my disorder, and it has helped me a lot. So yeah,
Wow. This is so open, and I highly appreciate you coming out and sharing this, Vivek, because I can imagine it's not easy.
yeah,
Doing this. It takes a lot of courage to come out and do this. But as you said, what you're doing is for the community. What you're building is for the community, and I'm sure the community will appreciate this also.
thanks, man.
From everyone who listens to Brewing E-commerce, it was an absolute pleasure having you, Vivek.
Thank you, man.
The
Thank you. It was
kind
a
of
pleasure working with you.
kind of things that you've spoken to, I hope will save a lot of time, lot of money, and a lot of heartaches for a lot of D2C guys and startup founders like us. We wish you all the best,
Thank
and
you.
looking forward to doing this again with you sometime soon.
Sure. Thanks a lot, man. Thank you, buddy.
All right, thank you. Awesome, Vivek.